Hello everybody, this is Fernando for the latest Ghosts and Spirits Encounters video. I'm mixing this one in here while I'm starting your new Mysteries and Disappearances suggestions. Please keep them coming. I'm going to go ahead and focus on them the rest of this week. But in this case, this entry comes from the Shadow People subreddit there on the reddit.com website. This one is a truly creepy encounter because not only does this user mention this shadow person, like meeting them once, but it's multiple times at multiple locations. And on top of that, it seems to mimic family members. And as an added bonus, other people are seeing this very same shadow person too. So definitely, unfortunately, bad news for this user. But without further ado, let's go ahead and let's share their entry here. It comes from a user by the name of Wee Wee Prince, and then they titled theirs as "I think a shadow person has been following me." So let me know what you guys and gals think about this, and then I'll give my own thoughts and opinions as well afterward. So here's what they state. Hi, so I'm a little reluctant to post about this as I've been met with a lot of skepticism when talking about it in the past, but this subreddit seems like a pretty open place for this subject, and I'm looking for input from others who might have experienced something similar. I just recently learned about shadow people and has given me the best explanation I can find for this experience, but please tell me your thoughts on this if this is something else, because I have no idea. Sorry, this is going to be a little lengthy, but I'm going to try and detail out my experiences and be as brief as possible. When I was about 12, I would go to my aunt's house in Tennessee for Thanksgiving, and she lived in a rural area on a large farm. The nearest property was long abandoned, and since I loved creepy stuff, when I heard about it, I begged my dad to take me over to see it. We went through to the woods to get to it, and it was your standard, stereotypical, creepy, abandoned house that you'd see in a horror movie. Outside of the house in the driveway leading up to it, there was a teddy bear hanging by its neck from a telephone wire. My dad and I were being stupid and playing it up like, oh, look at this bear, it's probably possessed. And like idiots, he cut it down and we took it back to my aunt's house. He hung it up in a tree in her backyard as a prank, and after everyone had seen it and had a good laugh, we just sort of left it there. For the next few nights after that, I had issues sleeping. I kept waking up in the middle of the night and just feeling insanely uneasy, but I figured it was because my aunt's house was just super creepy anyway. One night, though, I got out of bed to go to the bathroom, and when I did, I saw something in the corner of the room by the door. I can only describe it as a three-dimensional shadow, as I could tell that it wasn't flat against the wall, but there were no features or details to it. It was just pitch black, almost like it was absorbing all the light around it. The room was already very dark, but this thing was darker, almost impossibly so. It was tall, so tall that it had to hunch over to fit in the room, and its back was touching the ceiling. Like I said, it had no features, but for some reason I perceived it as a man. Like it kind of just had masculine energy to it, despite just being a very generic outline of a person. I have no memory of what happened after that, but I woke up the next morning in bed, and at some point I must have gotten back in bed and somehow fallen asleep. The memory of it was so lucid, though, that I know it wasn't a dream. I did not tell anyone about it at the time as it seemed so ridiculous, but my dad, in conversation, mentioned that he also was having trouble sleeping at night. And so after that, we decided to make the most horror movie decision possible and burned the bear on a bonfire. After that, nothing else happened on the trip, and I slept fine, as did my dad. This thing has since reappeared in my life several times, however. I've seen him in my room, outside my window, in random buildings, sometimes literally in the middle of the day, which gives his appearance an even more nonsensical vibe because even in broad daylight, he is still pitch black. I noticed that he would start to appear a lot whenever I spoke about him. When I would tell my friends about him, I would start to see him for a few days. When I told my friends this, we agreed that he shouldn't be mentioned. There was one time with an old friend where we were talking about it in the car and then went on a walk after. The friend got very alarmed at something and told me to run back to the car, and so I did so. When we got back, the friend told me that they had seen what I described and that he was in the trees watching us, so tall that his head was almost above the tree line. This was the only time someone else has claimed to see it. I went through a period of a time where I did not see him for several years and I sort of forgot about it. However, 3 years ago, my dad suddenly passed away from a heart attack. I went through a very deep depression for months after this, and now he reappeared almost daily during this time. I remember being used to him at this point and so deep in my depression that I couldn't even be bothered to be afraid of him and just sort of accepted it. This eventually stopped as well. The most recent development is the one that disturbs me the most and might not be related, but I personally feel that it is. A few times at night, I have seen what looks like to be my dad. I first saw him at a bonfire with friends just outside the ring of light provided by the fire and attributed it to a trick of the mind. But after that, I saw him in my room and then random parts of the house, even sometimes at friends' houses if I was over late. He is always very deep in shadow, so he's hard to make out, but he definitely has discernible features and definitely looks like my dad. But there's something in his expression and the way that is seeing him makes me feel that it's not really my dad. It feels like something trying to look like him. It's just slightly off. I get the same feeling when I see him that I got when I saw the tall shadow man. I don't know much about shadow people, and so this could be something completely different, but I'm very curious to hear what others have to say about this. I have not seen the vision of my dad for a few weeks now, but the memory of it keeps me up a lot, and I find myself constantly paranoid that I'm going to see him again. Seeing him feels much more disturbing than the shadow man, as although he's scary too, the implications behind this really get under my skin. Please let me know any thoughts, theories, or advice you might have, and thank you for reading. I apologize for it being so long. Then that's it. That's everything that the user Wee Prince mentioned. So let's talk about that here. Creepy story, right? Imagine that this guy even typing this and posting it in a subreddit, as he mentioned in a little bit earlier in his post. The moment he starts talking about it, it seems to come back. So him doing this on the subreddit makes me wonder if when he posted it, if this thing, whatever it was, the shadow person decided to make its reappearance again. But yeah, talk about finding something that apparently is the epicenter, or actually the origin of the shadow person. They go to this abandoned house near their aunt's house, and when they do so, they see this creepy looking teddy bear hanging by its neck by a telephone wire there on some tree. Why would anybody decide to take that bear? Like, I would probably take a picture of it. I would probably get as close as possible to it, but you know that flag in your mind, that feeling that you get, you're thinking something is wrong. Why would you even get that thing? Like, no way. It reminded me of that encounter we had over at the Yoakum Hospital a couple years back. There was a teddy bear, of all things, that was there within one of the rooms, and this was a room that was apparently used the couple of days before that we arrived there during a ghost hunt. It was used by some witches. And so I did not touch the teddy bear. I got close to it, but I too got that eerie feeling like something is wrong about a teddy bear being in this very, very creepy looking room. And so I didn't grab it. I didn't do anything to it. Certainly didn't take it home. And I think that's good. Like, nothing else happened to me afterward. But this dude, whatever he was doing, him and his dad, they decided to take it home. And then that's when the rest of the situation occurred. Now he started to see this super creepy shadow person. Apparently, it was also pitch black. It was almost three-dimensional. It was there, very, very tall, so tall that in fact, when it was hunched over, its shoulders were touching the ceiling still. So it was so tall it could have easily been higher than the house itself. And then on top of that, it started to follow him. It started to follow him from room to room, other buildings, outside, broad daylight as well. Imagine that. Imagine just walking around, running errands, and then there's this shadow person buddy just staring at you all creepily, and you're wondering, and you have that unnerving feeling, when are they going to appear next? Well, apparently it makes its own mind. It does so periodically, either a couple days, months, even years later, and then there it is again. What a horrible feeling that must be, to know that there's literally nothing you can do as far as the shadow person stopping its next appearance and then wondering when that'll happen. I mean, talk about having a good amount of weight on your shoulders when it comes to that situation. And then it takes it to another level. It makes its appearance in front of the friend. And then when the dad dies, apparently this thing starts to now look like the dad, just staring at him. But again, in a manner that does not seem well. It seems menacing, seems dangerous, and it's there just popping up at multiple locations. Horrible stuff. Feel bad for this user, and we'll see if they post any other updates afterward. Maybe if they found a way to get rid of it, or if it's just continuing to plague him, then I'll post what those updates are too. But creepy stuff. But let me know what you guys and gals think. All right, everybody. Thanks again as always. Take care. Bye.